All right, we're back working on sister number 3 still. As you can see, she is still very, very rough. I have not finessed or smoothed her out virtually at all. I'm just placing things at this point, trying to really determine how her posture is going to be. Because these are stylized, of course, I'm not so much worried about, getting every part of the anatomy looking realistic. Again, it's stylized. So I'm going to take liberties and things are going to be elongated and they're going to be exaggerated. And that's fine because that's what I want to do. When you're working towards realism, you'll probably use a lot of references if you're not just have a photographic memory and know how everything relates to itself regarding skeleton and the flesh over it and the structure and how things are distorted and foreshortened depending on the position. With this being stylized, I get to call it. And as long as I've locked it in enough so that you understand what you're looking at, that's the point. And I think at this point, you know exactly what you're looking at. This is a seated being, arms holding the legs in place in this particular posture. You can see the curve of the being's spine, the stomach area, the legs, the back. This is the neck because the head and hair have not been added yet. So like I said, enough of it is implied that you're looking at a human being. You're not looking at some animal. You may think you're looking at an alien because of the distortion of the proportions, but for the most part, it's going to lock into exactly how her sisters are stylized, and it all goes together. So you make the decision about what your goals are and how you want your sculpture to look. Now, when I'm focusing on creating a bust, even though I've created exaggerated stylized busts before, it was always more so because that's just how it came out, because that was the best I could do. So I had to go back to the drawing board and study a lot more to start coming closer to realistic faces when that's my goal. And, I'm never going to lie and be like, oh, no, I wanted this to be stylized when I see that I couldn't get realistic. I'm always going to be truthful and be like, this did not come out. This was not the vision that I wanted, but this is the manifestation that is, and I'm okay with it. But no, that's not what I was going for. Be honest with yourself, because if you start trying to lie to yourself and others about what your creative intentions are, you're not going to force yourself to work hard to realize those creative intentions, because you'll always just fall back on, well, it's whatever I tell them it is, and they don't know any better, so why should I have to feel unaccomplished because I didn't do what I hoped to do? It's not a matter of feeling unaccomplished. It's a matter of understanding that there's room for growth, and that with practice and with commitment, you will accomplish exactly what you want to accomplish. It just may take you a little more time than you thought. And yes, that may be a little bit more frustrating, but that's what art is. That's what knowledge is. That's what learning about what you're doing is, especially when you're trying to master a particular craft or you're trying to master a particular style or technique. So if you know deep within your heart, this is not at all what I was going for, and it's because I did not possess the skill at this current time to accurately execute what I was going for, then you've got work to do. And you get to it, and you keep going, and you keep practicing, and you keep applying the knowledge that you're gaining day by day, and then you are going to surprise yourself because you didn't give up and you did not settle for good enough. So my goal is to be able to bounce between stylized, aka abstract, seamlessly and with intention, not a happy mistake. I know those exist, and a lot of you love that terminology, and I get it, but I, in particular, don't want to deal with happy mistakes. I want to manifest the visions that pop up in my head, and I want them to be as close as possible to what I saw, to what I imagined. And there's only one way to do that, and that's to keep working at it. So this is what we're doing. And you have to forgive me. I'm like a cow with cud when I'm chewing gum. So if that annoys you, I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to do better, but no guarantees. From time to time, you might hear me chomping while I'm talking, and I'm sorry. Sorry for that. All right. She needs a little bit of indication of breast, but she's not top heavy. It doesn't need to be a lot of indication. So you saw that I scored it with the serrated edge. Wait, no, I used the fork. I'm sorry. So I scored it, and I'm just building her up just a little bit more here, because basically this area ends up smashed into her knees anyway, so I don't have to do a lot, but I want to give an indication. So you just place things where you need them, and you either use a tool or you use your hand to smooth it up and into the clay and give yourself the continuity that you're looking for and the structure that you're looking for. So that's good enough for right now. We've got plenty of time to finesse on this piece. There is a considerable amount of work to be done, but I'm really not all that interested in working on the clay while it's this soft, not to finesse, because it's sticky, you know, it ends up sticking to the tools a lot. You start going to form a certain area, the next thing you know, you've pulled it off because the clay is so loose. So I do want to get this to the leather hard point before I really and truly start going in on smoothing out and finessing the details. But we'll get there. All right, so this is as much as I want to do on this area right now. These hands are a hot, 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 extra hot jalapeno pepper hot mess. Scotch bonnet hot mess. And that's fine because I'm going to go in and fix that considerably. But like I said, you'll be moving things into place just to make sure that you see, I want to keep this area of clay because I'm going to do something with it. Sometimes you look and you realize I don't need a certain area of clay, so it's okay to go ahead and remove it. But there are going to be so many changes happening before this is all said and done. There's no need to marry yourself to a look. Just know certain things that are important to you. For instance, this area right here, it's important to me for you to see that area of the elbow. I don't want it to just be a circular arm that just loops around. I do want there to be a little bit of an indication of a joint right there. So upper arm, forearm, hand, upper arm, you know, sort of the elbow joint, forearm, hand. Feet are already done. A little boobature was implied here. This is going to get cleaned up a lot. I'm probably going to give some sort of definition to shoulder blades in this area. I don't know why I say probably and then get right into doing so. I should have said I'm giving a little bit of definition to shoulder blade area. Not much, not much, not much. But just enough, just scraping some out. Smoothing that down. It doesn't have to be as prominent as it is, but just a slight indication. So this is the neck, and I'm just about ready to go in on this. So I've decided what I want to do, since it's going to be her head looking upward like the rest of her sisters, and she's going to have a fro, but I think I'm going to put like a little bit of a headband on her or a scarf around her, and the fro is going to explode out of the back of that. But because I know this is going to be on a tilt, it doesn't necessarily serve me to have this as horizontal as it is. So I'm just going to switch it up right there. I'm going to take this tool, palette knife, and just cut it on a slant. So now you see what I've done? Cut it on a slant. And the reason you can't focus too much on defining these areas is because, like, I may not even be able to show this little light definition of shoulder blades because the fro may very well extend down there. I won't be able to figure that out until I sit her next to her sisters and determine the proportion. But what I want to focus on now is getting her head into place. I'm bad with determining how large or small a head should be, so you're going to have to forgive me. I don't know. I think I need a little more. I'm just going to start out with this much clay for right now. I'm going to spray it a little bit just because sometimes when you're manipulating it and compacting the clay in your hand, it'll get a little bit dry. Not too much. Okay, so now we've got Lanky Girl's head pretty much set up where we think it's going to be. We added a little more clay to indicate that her chest area is sort of smashed into her knees because of this particular pose and the way the posture is. I'm adding more right now as I'm speaking to you. And that's one thing you're constantly doing, is turning your sculpture around from all angles to see if it's looking the way it needs to. Because again, something can look very, very right and perfect on the left, and then you turn that bad boy around and the right looks like, what the hell were you thinking? So you just make sure you don't get locked into any weird areas or distorted areas by not constantly spinning your piece around and taking a look at it from all angles. That's so, so important. All right, that looks better for me now. So I'm going to stop right here, and I'm not really even interested in spraying her while I go to take my little break, and that's because I want this clay, sorry, I want this clay to start drying out so that it can get leather hard, and it's going to be a lot better for me to sculpt areas and finesse them once it's at that point. And of course, just because you start letting it get hard, if you realize that that's not going to work for you and you need an area or areas to be more pliable, that's why you have your spray bottle nearby. You hit the areas that you want to work on, that you want to soften up, and you go from there. So when we return, I'm going to be taking her off the pedestal. I'm going to be aligning her with her sisters. I got to clean this table off a little bit, and then I'm going to determine what the structure is going to be for her fro, how it's going to join to her sisters, and determine if I need to do the towel technique on any other areas. Like I might have to lay a towel around back here to make it pliable enough to hold her fro. The same thing with sister number 2. I might have to add a little more saturation to points underneath up in here. So we'll see. We'll determine that as we go along. And I thank you for hanging in with me thus far. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.